Hey guys, Swampfox Mike here. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Houston and I need to sight in my red dots. So I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks on sighting in red dots. And I'm going to follow it up with a parallax test. I'm going to start up way close. So come on, let's do it. Okay, so I've got my Canik Elite SC, and in my third pistol dot video I showed you guys side-by-side comparison of that versus the M, which meant taking it off this gun and just taping it to the top of the box. So since I've taken it off, I got to re-zero it. I'm starting out and I'm probably less than 5 yards away from the target. I mean, I can actually take a spent casing and throw it and hit the target from here, right? But if you don't have co-witness iron sights like I do on this gun, you may not have the luxury of getting to align the dot with your iron sights first. So I'm going to kind of simulate that here and start up really, really close and see where we hit. So I'm just going to load up 3 shots here and let's see how we do. Okay, so even though I'm super up close here, I'm trying to shoot for the maximum amount of accuracy possible. And so, in general, when you're trying to sight in one of these dots, treat your concealed carry pistol as if it was a sniper's rifle. You know, it's like a kid's show, hey, let's go to the land of pretend time, or whatever. We're going to act like this is a sniper's rifle. We're going to focus on our breathing, pay attention to grip, and let the trigger surprise you. It's not like defensive shooting at all. This isn't about how good you can shoot. This is about trying to shoot the tightest group possible and see where exactly this thing's going to hit. So I've got 3 shots in here. I'm going to aim directly at the 0 in the middle of this IDPA target, and I'm going to let the trigger surprise me very smoothly and deliberately. Okay, so I've got my 3 shots. Let's see how I did. Okay, so I succeeded in shooting a pretty nice group, but obviously we've got some sighting work to do. All 3 shots are right here. This is where I was aiming. Now, the question is, how much do we adjust? Because I'm up close, I'm like at 5 yards, and gee, I forgot my ruler, right? So I've got about that far to go. How are we going to figure out how much we need to adjust? Also, our red dots don't have clicks in them. So how are we just gonna guess, or what are we gonna do? So here's where a lot of folks get confused. We sometimes get emails and inquiries about this. Hey, when I move the adjustment to the right, it seems like the dot goes to the left, and I think your adjustments are backwards on your scope. Stop, you're overthinking it. So here's how it works. On our optics, all of our optics, the R for the right and the U for up represent a shift in point of impact. So if you're hitting to the left, you need to shift your point of impact to the right, and you need to go clockwise to go to the right. In my case, I was shooting to the right, and so I'm going to have to go left here to shift my point of impact to the left. Don't worry about which way the dot's going inside the window. That's not really relevant. You need to figure out which way your point of impact needs to go and shift in that direction. The U for up means that I'm going to have to go clockwise because I was shooting a little bit low. So we're going to go U for up, and then I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go counterclockwise to go left. The next question is, how much do I need to turn my turrets? So we don't have clicks in these. These are not target turrets like you'd see on Kentucky Long or Warhawk. They're really tiny and small, and we include this really tiny and small screwdriver. You can also use just any kind of eyeglasses repair kit screwdriver, anything like that will fit in there. But you're not going to get clicks here. I wish we could do it, but there are very valid reasons why we did not put clicks in these. And so what we've got is we've got tiny little tick marks, and each tick mark represents 1 MOA shift. And then we've got taller tick marks every 5 MOA. And I would encourage you guys, if you're going to bother mathing it out at all, a lot of people just trial and error it, but if you're going to try to math it out at all, you pretty much need to ignore the small ticks and just focus on the 5 MOA increments. So in this case, 1 MOA at 10 yards is basically a 1/10 of an inch. So it's going to take me 10 clicks at 10 yards to shift 1 inch, or 2 of these big 5 MOA clicks. So how far am I going to need to go in order to, at 5 yards, actually move my point of impact from where it is to the center of my target? How do we determine how much to adjust this red dot? I'll let you in on a secret. Before I took this video, I maxed out the adjustments on both elevation and windage so I would miss by a lot and give us a worst case scenario to work with. Don't do this at home.
If you're maxing out your adjustments, it probably means something's gone wrong when you mounted the optic. If you do get to a point where the adjustment screw stops turning and you still aren't sighted in, don't try to force it. Just contact our customer service team and we can help you out. I like to show worst case scenarios in our videos, and this is definitely one of them. On the right I have the measurements for 1 MOA at some common distances. If 1 MOA is roughly 1 inch at 100 yards, then at 5 yards it's a freaking tiny measurement of half of 1/10 of 1 inch. So I'm going to skip trying to count in 1 MOA increments altogether and start thinking in 5 MOA increments instead. 5 MOA at 5 yards is a bit more than 1/4 of an inch, so that's more manageable. We need to move 4 inches total, which is equivalent to 75 or 80 MOA. That's pretty insane because officially we only claim 70 MOA of total adjustment on Sentinel. We like to underpromise and overdeliver on our specifications, but understand your Sentinel may not adjust quite as much as this one did, okay? Finally, don't expect these tick marks to be perfect. You can use this to get close, but you will have to fine-tune it with some trial and error. Some guys just want to trial and error the whole time and not even bother to do the math at all. If you have co-witness iron sights or laser bore sighter to help you get on paper to start with, or if you just have plenty of ammo to burn, I say there's nothing wrong with that technique either.
Alright, so since I'm at 5 yards and I'm 4 inches away, I've calculated that I need roughly 80 MOA of adjustment, which is fairly ridiculous, but fortunately we have a lot of adjustment here. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to go by every 5. There's 16 5-inch increments that I needed to go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of those. And I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go up 16. Okay, so I made some really coarse adjustments, but I did math it out. Again, I'm going to shoot from a rest and just let the trigger surprise me. I'm not going to death grip the gun, so you see the gun will recoil a little bit more than it normally would, so I'm shooting for precision. Ooh. Alright, Space Force! Hey, alright, I got all 3 of them in pretty much one hole right there in the 0, so that's it, we're done. End of the video. Woo, we're sighted in, right? Wrong, I made a newbie mistake, and I'm going to show you what that's going to mean when we go back further away from just 5 yards. Okay, so I've moved my table back. If you're at an indoor range, you could simply just move the target further back. But I've tripled my distance. Now instead of at 5 yards, I'm at about 15 yards. And without adjusting the optic and shooting the same batch of hand-loaded ammo that I made in my Dillon, let's see if I hit in the same spot or not. Uh-huh. Just as I thought. We're high. Okay, so when I shot at 5 yards, this is the group that I shot. And as I shot at 15 yards, my group opened up a little bit, but my point of impact also shifted. I've got one here, and one a little bit high and left up there. But I've got a noticeable shift high when I increase my distance. And the reason for that is height over bore. Height over bore is the same thing on a pistol dot as it is on an AR-15. It's not the same amount because there's not as much distance between the bore line, the center of the actual barrel where the bullet passes through, and the center line of the optic, but there's more of a height over bore with a red dot on your pistol than there was with iron sights. So this is a thing that you need to know. It exists, it's a phenomenon, and we need to be aware of it, and we need to compensate for it. So if I do care about shooting at longer distances, which I do, I need to be aware that zeroing at 5 yards is not going to be good enough for me. I'm going to have to confirm that zero at a further distance and make an adjustment probably down a number of inches depending on how far away I intend to take this pistol.
I made a diagram to show you guys exactly what just happened here. This isn't something that we can see with our eyes just watching our buddy shoot, but mathematically there's no way around it. Your line of sight goes straight through the sight to the target like a laser beam. That's the blue line. But the barrel is mounted about an inch below that. So what? Who cares? What's 1 inch when we're shooting a pistol? Well, the problem is about the angle that creates. If you zero perfectly at 25 yards, you'll notice that your bullet hits about an inch low at 5 yards. I showed the bullet path in red. For me, an inch low at 5 yards is totally acceptable in exchange for being able to hit the target well at 25 yards. If I zero in perfectly at a crazy close distance like just 5 yards, then I've compensated successfully for that 1 inch of height over bore. But in doing that, I've ruined my ability to get accurate A-zone hits at further distances. I can probably get away with it at 15 yards, but as you saw, I was already missing by more than an inch, and as distance increases, it's only going to get worse and worse. This is why the experts say don't zero perfectly up close. Get your initial zero at about 10 yards, and then if you possibly can, make your final adjustments at 25 yards or so. In my experience, if you can get A-zone hits at 25 yards, you can get torso-sized hits at 50 and even 100 yards with a bit of practice.
Okay, so I've taken a few more shots off camera and kind of tightened up my groups a little bit. Didn't want to bore you guys too much, but we've increased our distance again. Now we're at about 25 yards, and here's where things get really serious. There's two things that I want to talk about real quick. When I start to confirm at 25 yards, or I want to fine-tune at 25 yards, then I make two adjustments. The first one is I got to shoot high-quality factory ammo. Before I was shooting my hand loads because it was so up close that the inaccuracy of my homemade cobbled together hand loads didn't really matter that much. At 25 yards, you might want to use some really nice factory ammo, even though it's expensive right now. If you are carrying this gun to defend your life, if you're taking that very, very seriously, at 25 yards, now is a good time to try your defensive loading and make sure that your gun is going to hit exactly where you aim with your defensive load of choice, because one of the things that can screw you up on this is changing bullet loads. If I sight in with 115 grain blazer brass and I'm perfect dead on at 25 yards, and then I decide that I'm going to carry 147 grain subsonic jacketed hollow point ammo from Federal or something, which is great ammo, it may not hit in the same place at 25 yards at all, and all my zeroing may not matter in a real world situation. So as distance increases and you get into these longer ranges, start considering maybe I should shoot up a little bit of that really expensive carry ammo and make sure that my point of aim will equal my point of impact at the longer distance. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start increasing the size of my groups in terms of the number of rounds fired. I've been shooting 3-shot groups so far. I'm going to shoot 5-shot groups now because I know that my pattern is going to open up a little bit. So I'm not going to be able to get as good a feedback from a 3-shot group as I did at 5 yards or 10 yards. At 25 yards, I may need 5 shots to sort of say, okay, generally they're in this direction, or generally they're in that direction. So as I fine-tune this, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to aim for the head. We're going to see where I'm at. And I'm going to just take 5 shots very deliberately and see where I go. Here we go. Alright, that's my 5. Let's see how I did. Well, this is the real world. So, how did I do? I've got 3 beautiful shots right here, right next to the 0, and then 1 low and 1 a little bit lower. So 3, 4, and 5. What does that tell me? In real life, it tells me I need to shoot another group. Because do I trust that these 3 are the true point of impact, and that this was a pull and that was a pull and that these 2 are bad shots? Or is it the ammo? Or is it that maybe the gun doesn't shoot that straight all the time? I think the gun does shoot that straight because I got 3 all touching each other at 25 yards. So I don't think it's the mechanic's fault. So what do? Do I make an adjustment here or not? In real life, I would shoot another 2 5-inch groups. Hey, let's throw another 10 rounds downrange. It's worth it. And let's see if I get more holes here or more holes down here. The other thing I'm going to do, talk about real quick, is introduce you to my favorite unit of measure, the Smidge. When you get this close and at 25 yards or so, stop trying to crunch the math. Stop trying to figure out, okay, I need to do this many tick marks or this many clicks, and just go if you're going to make an adjustment, just think about turning it a little bit. As soon as you feel that little screwdriver have a little bit of tension on it and you've turned it just a smidge, that's your adjustment at 25 yards, because it's way easy to get super close like this and hey, I'm doing really good, and then over adjust, and now I'm way over here and I got to do all that work again. I got to spend more time and more ammo because I over adjusted at 25 yards. So the Smidge can be your friend if you want to really nail it down and get the most accuracy that you possibly can. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good weekend.